This is Rafi Guzon, and you are tuned in to Nothing But That Sports Talk. Welcome back to another episode of Nothing But That Sports Talk. I'm Rafi Guzon, alongside a very special guest, and yeah, she's special indeed. You probably seen me interview her at Rucker Park back in 2019. Now she's here, Hannah O'Flynn. Welcome to the show.
Appreciate you. I'm excited.
Yeah, I see you in a good mood because before the show, you told me that in the middle of coming on here, you doing some other content that I'm not going to say on the air because you want to keep it private. So this will surprise the folks in your social medias. So
always, yeah, no, I'm always working on something and hopping between things and shooting content. So yeah, no, I appreciate you for being flexible and yeah, I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, I've been working on something for my platform for years, and that's pretty much all I've been doing. But yeah.
No, I love it. I know you're grinding, and I've slowly seen you interview a bunch of people in the industry, a bunch of my friends, and you're really going for it. So I respect that.
Yes, and I respect you too. Now, how did your career get started in basketball?
So that could be such a big or small question, but basically I played sports my entire life. I kind of did everything when I was younger. I was a basketball player, but I also was in soccer and I ran track and I did all three of the sports in high school. But before that, I kind of did everything. And yeah, sports was always something that I looked to different people for inspiration, and a bunch of women that were older than me in high school. I thought they were like the coolest when I was younger and like growing up, and I ended up just getting really into sports because I loved it. I loved pushing myself and being competitive, and eventually once I graduated from college and I knew I wanted to go into something creative, when I found a role within sports and the creative like filmmaking / social media content world, it was just the perfect alignment of ball is life, but on a whole different level. So I did a bunch of internships through college with different places, the Today Show, Nickelodeon, and a few others. And then I ended up getting my first official job at the NBA. And that was like a dream. I really couldn't believe it. And I slowly moved my way up. And then I eventually worked at ESPN as a producer and talent. So now I'm, in sports more than ever. And it's kind of crazy to think about how far I've come, but also, day to day, all you're thinking about is like what you want to do next. And so it's a very exciting time.
Yeah, it's nice to see that you always bring positive energy to anything you do. I mean, seriously, you mentioned you went to college to become a sprinter, and like in the midst of doing that, like what is like the students that like came before you advise you as far as becoming a better sprinter during your career?
So the biggest advice I give to specifically college students or people who are like recently graduated is two things: work on your craft and your connects. I think both are equally extremely important. So craft is whatever you're interested in doing, really building that portfolio and showing that you can do what you want. So if you want to go out and shoot a video, and maybe you haven't had that internship experience yet, but you want to go capture something, go do that and create a video on your own, maybe create a video for someone's social media platforms. Maybe there's a team at your school that could use something. So creating whatever you want to do, go actually work on it and get reps. And whether that's like getting an internship, which I highly suggest, especially in college, because that's the easiest way to get your foot in the door anywhere. And also like gain the experience and see if you actually like it. Or it's just going off and you're on your own and just shooting content and reaching out to people and getting advice. I feel like getting advice and getting mentors is super important, but more than anything, it's just like actually going out on your own and trying to create something or work on what you think you might be interested in. And so that's craft. And then the other side, which is equally as important, is connects. So once you have the abilities, once you have the portfolio and you're like, okay, I'm confident, maybe I need to grow in certain areas, but I know that this is like something I'm good at and I really want to do, then you have to be like, okay, who is in this world that I can connect with? What brands can I see myself working for? And, you know, make a list of your top 15, 20 brands or people that you can see yourself working with. And it would be like a dream to work with them. And see who you know, so see who you can connect with and maybe get an opportunity with. The world is really small, so I think it's just important to meet different people and come at it with like very genuine energy and yeah, just like really pursue it and go for it. And at first it might seem really hard and sort of hopeless, but it's amazing. I remember when I first graduated from college, I couldn't get a job for my life. I was really like, I did really well in school. Like I was applying to all these places. I was barely hearing back from anyone. I just wanted to get a no from somebody. I was like, just tell me something. And, you know, then I finally landed a job that I felt I was overqualified for, but I was like, it's a foot in the door. I'm going to prove myself. I'm going to work my way up. And that's exactly what I did. So I think it's just about getting the right people to put you in a place of success that you've already created for yourself. And it's more just like, you're just showing that you're capable. And yeah, so craft and connects, those are the two things. And I definitely think getting experience when you're in college, as far as like internships and going out and creating your own content or following or shadowing mentors, is also just very important and very helpful. And you know, it's never too late to switch. It really isn't. And I think we get so focused on so much that you could do, especially when you're recently graduated, because it's like the world of opportunities, but all you can do is just focus on each individual opportunity that comes about and not get too overwhelmed by all of it.
Yeah.
I've been through it and it's possible.
Yeah.
A lot sometimes,
When I
but
met
it's
you in
definitely
2000,
possible.
yeah, when I met you in 2019, I kind of figured to myself, hey, you're way too talented to have the rejections that you had prior to the end of college, the end of your sprinting and basketball career to actually get hired by the NBA. But you guys sense of how hard it is to get a job with those big sports companies and media companies. You guys sense that before the door was open for you. Like seriously,
Yeah.
that advice about connecting and creativity, that's kind of what I've been doing ever since LIU and Fordham days. I mean, you just got to make sure that the first person that says yes to you being an intern, you take it. No ifs, ands, or buts
Yeah.
about it. You got to be demanding in order to get into this industry.
You do, but you also have to just like, it's almost like what you do and what you bring to the table speaks for itself, and people will start seeing that. So I think it's like a mix of being bold and confident enough to be like, I'm good at what I do. I want to work for you. I will make an immediate impact, and like this would be a dream to be here. But then on the same page, you have to have everything to sort of back it up, so it's a no-brainer for everyone. And honestly, beyond anything, you just have to be like a great person to hang out with and work with, because people just want to hire someone that they can see themselves hanging out with every day and being productive with and like working towards something with. So yeah, it can be a lot, but it's, you know, it's very doable. And it's just about like pushing and believing. And yeah, you know what that's like for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I've had special guests on the show where sometimes I ask them after that, hey, can we hang out? Can we hang out? And sometimes I'm told no, but I'm like, you know what? I understand they're very busy people. They have their own people, and I just started to meet them. I mean, look, I don't really like look, me and you don't see eye to eye or speak on a regular basis outside of events, but I see what you're doing. I know you're a nice person. I know that the day that you do get to hang out, it's not going to be what you're kind of be weird about as usual. You just can't be too shy. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And exactly. You got to be willing to put yourself out there and just looking for things that you can help with too for different people. I think people really like value when you see what they're doing and if you want to work with them, being like, oh, like I see an opportunity here if you want to do this together, or read the room and kind of decide if it's something you want to pursue. But
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And all that, everything else you just said about connecting and creativity, it led to you building relationships with many different people that you work with in the sports industry. As we transition to the next topic, building relationships and engagement through sports. I mean, with those words, what are you thinking about as far as building relationships and fan engagement within the sports industry for you?
it's something that's come over time and very naturally. I feel like once you're in a specific niche and world, it starts getting really small. So, for example, the women's sports media world, I honestly just started thinking of a bunch of my friends that we started at like either the NBA together or we knew each other through different experiences. And now we've all branched out into different locations and everyone's like thriving and really pushing it. So I honestly just think of like my relationships and friendships that I have with people and the work I've done with people in the past. So I think your network very organically builds if you're just focusing on stuff you really love. And so you start meeting people who also really love those things. And you start like, naturally when you're at the NBA or WNBA All-Star events or at these like basketball clinics, you start meeting people that are really passionate about the same things that you are. And it's just like a really organic, beautiful thing. So I think obviously it's important to add people on LinkedIn and on Instagram and like reach out and be like, or even just not even reach out, but even just be supportive depending on how you feel. But I think if you're in the world long enough and that you're interested in, you're going to meet people who are doing the same or similar things to you and are just as passionate. And then the world starts becoming really small and it's beautiful. So that's what I think of when I think of networking and like sort of connecting within your passion or within your niche.
Yeah, exactly. And that type of thinking, that type of mindset you always have, whether you're going to when you attend all these events as a fan or as media. Like when I first saw you, when I covered Bowling for Peace, I saw you playing at that game. You had some skills.
Thank you.
You had some skills. I didn't meet you till like literally 3 or 4 weeks of Booth for Bowling for Peace when you had the little gathering for the Basketball Beauties League. And
yep, I remember.
It was slightly easier to meet you at that point because Sean Tate was with me that day. And then, well, obviously, when I'm at the game, I have to focus on actually interviewing people.
Absolutely.
People
yeah.
Doing videographic on the game itself. So you don't really get time to talk to or meet every single person that's walking by you. You can only
right.
that you feel is the case. But I got into covering Ball for Peace because of my that I connected with Haran, and then also I connected with Nia Rose. You remember Nia Rose, right? Of
course, yeah, of course. So the other thing too is just showing up to events. I think that's like the biggest thing you can do is just show up. And oftentimes you're like, oh, I don't know, and then you get there and you're meeting so many people, you're having such a good time. Like it's a very easy way to really like in person is undefeated over anything, over social media, over messaging, emails, anything. I think in-person interaction is something that's just like in our nature. So I think meeting people at events is also just like such a great way to network too.
Yeah, or vice versa. Those type of, and vice versa. I remember when I reached out to Ari and Christina about coming on this podcast, and so I was like, hey, you want to come on my show? And they agreed to come on, and we had a decent conversation about women's basketball, like as if we were watching, like as if we know each other for years.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch my
Yeah.
when those women came on the show the first time. You would have a probably time with my cousin Knox, by the way. Shout out to him and shout out to the women I just mentioned. You probably have a sense of my knowledge of WNBA back in 2018 compared to right now, as somebody that actually covered it along with like four in-person events of the WNBA already.
Hmm.
Probably get a sense of that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and when you're in that world, I feel like everyone knows that you're like, if you've been going at it for long enough and you've been showing up to the events and you really care, then you have that knowledge. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And with all that knowledge, it led to you building relationships with one women I just mentioned, Ari Chalmers. You also build relationships
Ari Chambers, yeah.
with Brittney Elena, that she's a phenomenal basketball player, actor, and a good human being. I met her at the WNBA draft, and I was I'm at least glad that I got to introduce myself to her because
Mm-hmm.
she went viral. She's one of those people I would love to have on the show sometime. So yeah, why don't you talk about building relationships with the women that I just mentioned, along with other WNBA influencers, started with Brittney Elena.
Yeah, so I mean, Brittney and Ari, the two girls you just mentioned, are two of my dear friends. I adore them and what they do. And um, it's so funny because I think we're all just so busy that the only time we have social interaction is when there's an event. So I just saw Britt at the It's Her Shot event on Saturday, and I actually saw Ari there too. And before that, I saw Ari at another event where we were supporting our friend who just dropped a new shoe. I think Jamerson. But yeah, it's just like you become so close because you're doing the same type of things, and you really like build beautiful relationships and through work and what you're really interested in. Like I've been sort of all over the world with different girls and people in that industry. Like I was in Rwanda with Brittney for the Basketball Africa League.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when you're in those type of experiences and you just are like, whoa, like look what we're doing. Look at us. This is so dope. And like how cool that we don't have to do it alone. We can like share this experience together. Because I think in this world too, sometimes you find yourself kind of doing things on your own, which is part of it. Sometimes you can get kind of lonely, especially when you're traveling for work a lot, or you have some, big moment or interview or on camera thing, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I have to stay up really late and I have to do a lot of research. And this is kind of, I'm putting a lot of pressure on this, but I'm going to try my best. And it can become a feeling of like you're on your own, which, in life, I think oftentimes we are, and we have to be like comfortable with that and address it and be like, okay, maybe I feel like I'm doing this alone, but like I got this, So I think moments when you can share what you're doing and what you love with someone else is so special and so important. So anytime that I see Britt or Ari or any of my friends in that world, it's just like immediate joy. Like you're just like, oh my God, like I don't know, it's really special and it's very heartwarming, and like it's almost like kind of like a sisterhood kind of vibe. If you ever go to WNBA like all-star events, and I know you fully have experienced this so many times, like there's so many awesome, genuine people there, and everyone's really there for the same reason, which is just to like support and grow the women's game. There's not as much clout chasing. It's very much just like we're here because we really care. And it's just like such an inclusive and kind and welcoming environment. And yeah, I think you feel it when you're there, and it's very unique and very special. So I don't take it for granted at all.
Yeah, you shouldn't. I mean, I remember when I first, you can't. I mean, you had to learn to hold on to relationships you had while you're being involved with the WNBA, whether as a content creator or a worker, because
Mm-hmm.
those relationships tend to last forever until
Exactly.
There anymore somehow. But
Yeah, they're my friends for life. So, like after, who knows which direction we'll end up, but um yeah, they really will be in my life forever. And, if I ever get a random call from any of them, it's never a surprise. I'm like, yeah, like I got you, like, so
yeah,
um
and you know what? Those relationships kind of helped you land gigs with the NBA and NBA. And like, why don't you talk about like what was it like working in the NBA environments?
yeah, so when I first started the NBA, I didn't really know anyone, honestly. It was really early. It was like right when I graduated from college, like a year in. I interned for this company called Whistle Sports, which is a startup sports media company at the time. Now it's like thriving. It's not as much startup vibes. Um, but I, after that internship, was like, okay, I need to like find a full-time job. And that's when I applied to the NBA, and I applied to a logger role because I was like, you know what? I honestly feel super overqualified for this. I feel like I'm capable of a lot more, but it's a foot in the door and it's a way to be involved. And so I applied and I interviewed and I got it. And then from there, I like, worked my way up slowly and um eventually became a producer and editor and was like, working on producing the NBA All-Star circuit and interviewing all of these NBA players and WNBA players and having like a great deal of responsibility, which is just like really exciting. And you're like, yeah, no, I can do this. And I'm trying to remember the original piece of your question, just like working for the NBA and what it was like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so as a basketball player, you in the beginning, you're kind of just like, oh my gosh, like this is my job to like watch basketball and create videos and like get to know players. And how wild is it that this is like my day to day? Um, so I had a lot of moments at the NBA where I kind of had to pinch myself, where it was just like, I'm really being asked to do this. And like, for example, a few things I did was like I cut like a Vince Carter dunking mixtape, and I was like, oh my god, he's one of my favorite players ever. The 2000 dunk contest I had watched so many times before I even worked at the NBA, so it's just like, oh yeah, I'll absolutely cut a video on him. Or things as extreme as like I had a 360 camera that I had to follow LeBron around with, where like through NBA All Star I had a camera and I would just capture him as he's walking through all of these places. And that was the year he won in LA. So it's just like little assignments and then things that are like larger, like obviously the LeBron thing, but then also where you have a lot of say in it. You're not just like capturing, you're like directing. So I directed, as I said, the All-Star social circuit, where I came up with questions for each individual player. And I had to do a ton of research before that. But I think the biggest thing that I learned from my time at the NBA is when you do what you're told, you're only going to gradually get better and continue to do like what you're asked. But if you do what you're told well, in addition to what you want to do for yourself, you'll grow so quickly and you'll eventually get to where you want to go. So I would always do what I was assigned. But in addition, I would work on, for example, at the time, Snapchat was popping. So I cut a bunch of Snapchat videos that I thought would do really well for the story that went out for the NBA. Next thing you know, I'm getting moved up and being put on that team as an editor and like a creative because they needed more help in that area. So I was like, where is there area for improvement? Like, where is there an opportunity? How can I be involved in that? And also, what do I want to do? So I think doing those things. And then something I also learned is voicing what you want to do, because you want to be in an environment where, hey, like right now, maybe I'm a logger and I know my position. I'm going to own it. I'm going to kill it. But eventually, I want to be a producer. I want to be a director. I want to be an on-camera talent and like putting that out there instead of being shy about it is important, because then your manager or whoever whatever team you're on will help you hopefully get there, and also know that that's your end goal. Because I think you don't want to be in a place where they just want you to focus on one thing and don't have any care for your eventual career dreams, right? So I think it's important to voice what you might be interested in. Because when I hear someone say, hey, like if an intern or something, they're like, oh, like I'm down to help with anything, I'm interested in anything, kind of like so open-minded that there's nothing specific that they're very interested in. I would honestly prefer someone to say, I'm going to go all out in what you ask me. I'm very excited to work on this, but personally, this is something that I really want to do, or this is an area that I really want to work on. Like I'm really into hockey. I'm really into like women's soccer, and like any type of storytelling or travel or opportunity that exists within that. I'm very knowledgeable on that, and I would love to grow in that area. And like I think reflecting on what you want to do is really important. And also, you know, if you don't know, that's okay, and you'll slowly like go through the process and be open-minded and learn. But I think it's also just about growing in the direction you want, and being like very intentional as you're going to get there.
Wow, that's a long story. It's like literally the longest quote I ever heard when I asked people about working in the NBA. I mean, all the people that came after you kind of got that sense, like Tykera Carter and this lady named Misha. I mean, and many other people that like literally came after you and working in the NBA offices in New Jersey.
Yeah.
They came after you. I seen the work being put in fruition at the WNBA draft and the two finals games I covered like literally last month. Well,
Yeah.
I get a sense of them doing videos of the players about to enter their locker rooms in fancy clothes, and then being able to ask them questions in the locker room, like a lot of fundamental questions in the middle of the practices. Those help you build in your career as a sports media professional.
Totally. And like you even just having those opportunities to interview those athletes and come up with like unique questions, and also get to know the players and figure out things that specifically, like maybe they get asked certain questions all the time, but maybe you can take it another level from that question, or maybe you can even ask them something that they haven't heard. And yeah, I think there's just so much opportunity in the little things too. And I really like that you're putting yourself out there and going for it, because a lot of those players also just get used to your presence, and they get more comfortable with people that they see all the time, so they're more willing to like open up to someone than you know, a total stranger who's new. So it's good to like build those relationships and be consistent.
Exactly, and I'm gonna pick up on what you said. I'm gonna exactly, and I remember one of the PR workers from the Las Vegas Aces. I believe her name was Caroline Williams, whatever the case may be. She came to me at the WNBA Finals, telling me how impressed she was that from the 2021 USA Olympic runs for the men's and women's side all the way to this up until this point, that of the development of the questions that I ask players on the Zoom calls, even if I don't get to ask them after every post game. She was she talked about how impressed she was. She loved the growth and development of myself as a journalist. And yeah, it was just great to hear that. And this is the first day me and Caroline actually spoke to each other.
I love that. Yeah, it's like and if you're consistent and you keep, you know, going at it and you really care, then eventually you're going to be recognized and heard. So I feel like yeah, good job.
Yeah. Now, after your time working in the NBA, like came to an end, I remember when I first called you, you told me that you was getting interviewed for a job at ESPN.
I was. Yep.
You got that job. When I
got the job.
You didn't even know who I was when I called you until I told you we met at Rucker Park and I interviewed you. I described myself, and then like you told me, and then that's when you started getting refamiliarized with me You told me that you got the gig at ESPN before you even announced it on social media. When I heard that, I was like, yeah, you're doing big things. And then you never let nobody, not even your not even family, tell you what you can and cannot do. You got
Yes.
whatever makes you happy. And that's what got you a job at ESPN. And from that point on, why don't you talk about like what was it like working at ESPN environment and build the relationships with the people that you work with in that field?
I I adored working at ESPN. The team is amazing, specifically the social media content team. They have a full plan about everything they're working on, and they're very intentional. They set a lot of goals. Um, but beyond just being extremely good at what they do, um, they make it really fun. And everyone there feels very taken care of and appreciated. And they are very good at like building a team and staying in check and making sure, you know, people are involved as they want to be. um ESPN was definitely a dream, and then a dream beyond that was when I got to produce and host and direct my own show for them. And that was just like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. And you know, they were someone who, like I told you before, I told them I'm a producer. I obviously also have my own platform on, you know, social media where I'm like trying to grow my on-camera presence and become better at, you know, interviews and telling people stories. And at the end of the day, you know, I started behind the scenes, directing and editing and being very good at like post-production and storytelling. So I was like, let me do it. Let me go work on a project. And they actually were like, go fly. And so I was like, oh my gosh, we're doing this. And you know, as I was like shocked, I also was just like, I'm so ready and I know I'm gonna kill it, but I'm not gonna get much sleep. So I ended up you know, producing a whole show. I was so proud of it. And you know, there were a lot of late nights and just like exhausting turnarounds, but it was something that I was like put my whole heart and soul into, and it's something I really cared about. So that was a big accomplishment, and then the other big accomplishment was just like specifically focusing on ESPNW and growing that page and making you know, women's sports be a huge priority. And you can see a shift that's happening throughout the sports media world where people are really starting to believe in, you know, all women's sports and really genuinely getting involved and becoming fans and being supportive tangibly. So it's a really exciting time to be in sports, and it's also just like something that I care immensely about. So being a part of that team and being with people who care just as much and also have an agenda and have like a system to get things done, it was just really cool. And it's a group that I definitely still like, you know, stay involved with, and always am involved on like all the socials, whether it's Sports Center, ESPNW, and I've kept really good relationships with the crew there. They're amazing. So that's definitely the best team I've ever worked for and been on. And yeah, they're awesome. I can't say enough good things. So
Yeah, you really can. ESPN put together some of the most incredible shows and debates
yes.
you'll ever see. And you know what? I even
Amen.
have fun watching Stephen A. Smith roast Cowboy fans. Seriously.
That'll never go away.
Yeah, I've interviewed so many people that work for ESPN. I even interviewed this lady named Tatiana Smallwood about the Dallas Cowboy fan montage that was just created specifically for Stephen A. Smith to laugh at Cowboy fans.
Hey, listen, man, whatever works. People love it. Stephen A is such a personality, and I think it's just like you can't people, whether they like love him or they hate him, they still watch, so it's like I personally am so entertained by him. And yeah, for one of the shows that I first worked on when I got to ESPN right away in the beginning, I worked with him on I was in charge of like the marketing and promotion of the show. And I was like, we need him on the front. Like, you always want to hook in the very beginning of your videos, especially anything marketing or social media related. And Stephen A is just like a hook. Like, his face and just like his personality will immediately just be like, all right, what is he saying? What is this about? Like, I need to know, So I did a small like video promoting our show. And he was, off the top of it. So yeah.
That's pretty much how it is when you're working for one of the biggest networks in sports. And sports is
Amen.
like literally something that you eat, sleep, and breathe.
Exactly. It doesn't ever end. But, I love it, so I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now you mentioned that you got to create your own show. Like, why don't you tell me like what like the difficulties of like starting the show for a major company, even if it's just social media?
Yeah, so I mean, there's so many pieces of producing and coming up with a show, and the one major obvious piece of it is budget, and then the other piece of it is like, what do you want your show to be about? What channels will it live on? um there's so many different factors. Who do you want to be on it? What's the script going to be like? Do you want it to come off as like authoritative and official? Do you want it to be funny? Do you want it to be like a history lesson? Are you talking to kids? Are you talking to 20 to 30-year-olds? There's so many different factors that go into a show. So it's just kind of like figuring out what you want the main takeaways to be. And then, you know, it's just like the little pieces of executing each episode and figuring out, piecing together what it looks like. And I think the best way to go about it is to think of everything in sections. So the show that I specifically worked on was around the time of Title IX and the anniversary, the 50th anniversary, and our show was called 50/50. And so it was educating people about what Title IX is, but I wanted to do it in a way that it was for like a younger millennial Gen Z type audience, where it was kind of like, instead of being like, in 1972, blah, 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 instead I would interview an athlete that's really popular and impressive. So for example, like Ilona Maher is one of the top USA rugby players, and she has a huge presence on social media. People love her. So it's making it current and relatable. And then we went back in time in a time machine. We had a green screen. We like did this whole like magic school bus type transition. And then we talked about like the history within each sport of each athlete that I interviewed. So we talk about a skill that they learned. So with Ilona, it was how to properly tackle, and she tackled the ish out of me. And then that was like that was like the beginning, and getting to know her and making it fun and learning a skill. And then you go back into like the history within contact sports for women, and just like women being strong and lifting and everything she stood for, which is like body positivity and just empowering, a lot of empowering things. So each episode was different depending on who the athlete was, but it's just curating what you want the show to be about, and then thinking about like, what if I was watching this, would I watch the full thing, and what would make it good, what would make it better to me, what would make it funnier, what would make it more entertaining and more like, I don't know. For example, I think a lot of people on social media, they think there's like a certain way you should present yourself, and it really it depends, right? Like, you can be like hello everyone, or you can be like, yo, what's up guys, like, and it just depends on whatever presence you want to have, or if you want your audience to be your friend, if you want to report to them, like it really depends. But there's so many pieces, so it's tough for me to like get into each of them. But I think meeting the athletes in person was my favorite part, and it made it very real. And I definitely had chills multiple times when I was shooting the show, because you're just like, whoa, like we're here, we're doing this, and they're all in and they're into it, and we're creating something really beautiful. So um I think as long as you're into it, no matter how much work and exhaustion and hours go into it, it won't matter, because you're just like, you're proud of what you're creating. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much like how it is with me. I mean, I named my show nothing but that sports stuff because I remember that because it was inspired by a time where I talk a lot about sports in high school, and I was told, Rafiq, all you ever talk about is basketball. All you ever talk about is sports. And I was like, you know what? That name was just something that came into my head when I started this show.
Yeah, you're like, I do this a lot. Let me just like record it.
Yeah, let me just have these same conversations with an audio recorder and a camera in my face compared to in real life, when half the time people don't want to be bothered to talk about sports, when they rather talk about something else or teach me how to talk about stuff outside of what I'm comfortable talking about.
Right. Yeah.
Like I'm like you guys said, so the reporter side of me when I interviewed you at Rucker Park, and now you're getting the debate side of me in literally a 1 to 2 hour recording.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, you get into more depth and quality conversations for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a lot. Yeah, and now we transition a little bit. I mean, we talked about being in the WNBA Finals. I mean, obviously, as we already talked about over the phone a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting at the press box in the 200s, in the 200 sections, recording the game from the bird's eye view, when I couldn't get on the court and there wasn't enough room. While you got invited to the Gatorade Suites. So I want you to talk a little bit about like what did you love about watching not just the basketball game itself, but the whole fan engagement with fans waving the towels, the hip hop artists that are performing, and then literally everybody being invested into a WNBA Finals game being played in the ball of Brooklyn, attracting literally full capacity in Game 3 and near full capacity in Game 4.
Yeah, I said in a recap post after that I've never been to Barclays and seen it that lit. It was so live and it was so encouraging and so beautiful. I honestly like kind of got a little bit emotional at the beginning of the game when you saw all the towels and everyone was so into it. It was just like, this is what it should be. And it just kind of gave a preview of what women's basketball is and like the direction it's going, as far as like people really believing in it and tangibly physically showing up. And it was so much fun. Like I was really like on the edge of my seat. The game was so close. I was lucky enough to go to both of the Liberty Aces games at the Barclays, and yeah, it was just like unbelievable energy and really, really cool to be in the building and just see how into it everyone was. And I think that same week, Iowa played and they sold out this entire football stadium. Caitlin Clark was
the entire football arena, the entire college football field.
Yep.
That was incredible.
Yes.
All the viewership, all these engagements. They even did better than the World Series this year.
And it just shows you like there is an audience, and there no longer needs to be that argument of like, oh, blah blah blah. It's like, no, like it's here and it's growing, and either you join it and invest in it and you get into it and you support, or you just, you're living in Delulu land. But yeah,
exactly.
It was really exciting to be there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad I got a chance to like literally record the whole game from the bird's eye view, being able to talk to reporters that were literally sitting right next to me in the middle in the middle of covering it, well, actually writing to publish. I mean, don't forget to check out my write up I did on my Nothing But That Sports.com website, which I will publish the link below to all my YouTube subscribers that haven't seen it yet. But besides the point, just being able to cover that is amazing. In the same year I got to my first
being able to be there in person at all is amazing. I got so many messages from people all over the world being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're there. Like, that is, wow, that is so cool. I wish I could be there.
Yeah, I called an older special guest named Abigail Wise, who played Paul at Coppin State. I called to tell him I got credentialed to cover the WNBA Finals. She was excited for me. You were excited. Yeah, of course the Liberty did. Of course the Liberty did lose it again, which I need to heal and calm. I needed like a couple seconds to heal and calm down for this. I mean, the WNBA, the Liberty fan in me is upset, but the journalist in me is like, just focus on getting the interviews.
Totally.
I mean, some of them spoke at the podium, but the rest of them didn't really want to talk in the media scrums. But after that, I went to witness the Aces celebrate their championship, and it was the fact that they made sure that everybody got to ask the players a question. When the PR guy named Ron Howard was like, "That's it," and the Aces players literally shut that down. Make sure everybody, even me, got to talk to the players, ask Aisha Wilson about being able to about what's it like being a two-time champion, and she was excited about it.
I love that. Yeah, it just shows the type of players they are too.
If you thought being the Gatorade Suites while attending the WNBA Finals is sweet, you should have been in the locker room when Ace was celebrating and dancing. I know you've done it before.
I lived that life. I've lived that life before.
I know you've done it before, but I'm talking about like in New York City.
True. I know. I feel like, yeah, it's different. It's different in New York. You're right. There's no doubt about it. Maybe there will be another opportunity in the future, but I'm happy to let someone else experience it. And I'm grateful for whatever seat I get. Even if I get one, I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And yeah, I'll be watching it no matter what, if it's from home or if it's courtside or if it's any seat in the house. I'll be grateful for it and definitely embrace it.
Yep, we're definitely going to embrace it all, indeed. Now we talked about to switch gears real quick. I mean, you talked about like how I interviewed you for the first time at the Rucker. That was the first time I actually having a conversation with you. And from that on, you played the Basketball Beauties League. You played at the Knicks Alumni Celebrity Game, and that was the first time you had an in-person interaction. Like after we slightly recovered from COVID. So why don't you talk about how much you enjoyed playing at one of the biggest street ball parks in New York City?
I mean, Rutgers iconic. You can't take anything away from it. Its history is so deep. It's built so many NBA legends, and to be able to play there in any capacity, whether it's just like shooting around or in a league or in that game with the Knicks that I got to play in, I love it every single time. Yeah, and there's this nostalgic feeling when you're there, and this cool feeling of history where you're just like, whoa, like, all of these huge players that, at like Kobe or KD, like everyone's been on this court. This is very cool. So anytime I get to play there, I'm very excited. And I used to live in Harlem for a little bit, so I would travel up there a lot, but now I'm in Brooklyn, so I don't go there as often. But if there's ever something going down there, but whether it's Rucker or even more so like Dykeman, I think is like, as far as competition goes, it's, I think the top talent in the country. Honestly, I think Dykeman might be one of the biggest street ball tournaments and places, and it's kind of become like the new Rucker, if that makes sense. So I think both of those courts hold so much value and history, and it's never not cool to be there in any way. So yeah.
Yeah, unless you're somebody trying to stay away from the game violence that happens outside of Rucker Park, it's never not a good idea to go.
Yeah.
really.
True. Sometimes you have to navigate a few things, but for the most part, it's usually I don't know. I feel like if you're a New Yorker, if you get how New York works, you're so good. So
Yeah.
it's
Of
yeah.
course, looking back at
Always
that
gotta be a
time,
little wary, but
yeah. I mean, looking back at that time when you were playing at the All Star at the Knicks Celebrity Alumni game. I mean, what was the toughest former old school Knicks to guard when you were playing in it? Because I witnessed you play ball there, and I witnessed you had a tough time guarding players.
oh yeah, no, I think I like playing against usually the best person, which is kind of nuts because then you get embarrassed the most. But for some reason, like I'd rather be having fun and like kind of going up against people than just kind of like guarding someone who doesn't play basketball. Like I want to have a challenge. Um, that game for sure, the most shifty player was Leaky. Um, and I feel like every New Yorker kind of knows him now. He's really he's very quick and he's very long and like very explosive. Like he has a really quick first step and his moves are really shifty. So he's like one of those people where like if you're going up to guard him, you're like, well, this might be bad, but we're doing it. Like so I think that's the answer for that question.
Yeah. And how did you get invited to play the game anyway?
I the Knicks reached out to me. I think I've just built a platform on my socials, and I'm a basketball enthusiast. I've been, in this world for so long, and I love creating videos that are like reflecting on cool courts around the world and all these amazing players and just like empowering women and just like the youth to play more. And I think just because I've been in New York for like 10 years of my life total now, I assume they just found me on Instagram and recognized that I could be added to the squad. But yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know how they ended up reaching out to me, but I'm glad they did.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of building, well, speaking of like inspiring the youth, you had a chance to inspire the youth, as you mentioned earlier in the show, by going to the It's Her Shots events. I believe this is like the third or fourth year in a row you were involved with that event. I remember a year ago they were doing it at Brooklyn Bridge. This week they do it
Yeah,
in Jersey City. You are how you pronounce the name of that place? Um,
Brooklyn Bridge Pier 2.
I know Brooklyn Bridge Pier 2. That was last year. I'm talking about like the one you went to recently, all the
Oh,
way.
the Armory, New Jersey
Armory. Yeah.
Armory.
So, what do you love about like being involved in hits or shots, especially the WNBA players, current, old, and future, they're involved.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing on every level because you can see kids that, are very young, like just like in preschool or,
And you teach them your own skills.
yeah, and you can see the excitement and like pure joy of learning a sport and also like the frustration of learning a sport. And you're like teaching these kids basketball skills, but you're also teaching them life skills and you're teaching them to be confident. And it's just like this infectious energy of everyone who's in that building is just like so happy to be there, whether it's like Cheryl Swoops or it's like this 5-year-old girl who is just like learning how to dribble a basketball. It's every person in there is like really cool to interact with, and it's every single year it's like a really beautiful environment, and it's not just basketball, it's like so much bigger than that. So I think it reflects it really well, and it's usually ends up being one of my favorite days of the month and even year. I always look so forward to it.
Yeah, and I even had a sense of watching these kids learn how to play basketball when I went to the Her Time to Play event all the way at Ebbets Field. Watching these kids learn how to play and interviewing Ari about it really gets you a sense of why that along with the It's Her Shot event is important as far as building the engagement and having an impact in the community, especially the kids that want to be you whether it's from a sports perspective or media perspective.
Yeah, and you learn from the kids too. I think when you start getting older and playing very competitively, you sort of get so lost in it and so lost in like what you can improve on and what you can get better on that you forget about how far you've come and just like the pure joy of like playing and also like fearlessly playing, you know? So there's something that everyone can learn from each other.
Yes, indeed. It's all that mindset. Let you managed to carry all that along to your trip to Paris that you told me that you had over the phone last month. Well, describe the whole experience of being in Paris, connected with somebody that you had a friendship with, creating content with them, and build engagement in a foreign country.
Yeah, so I have a few close friends in Paris and I had this open window of time where I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna meet the entire basketball community, the content creators, the videographers, photographers, and just like people in this space in France. And honestly, I was absolutely thriving. The people there are so beautiful, and there's really cool courts there. There's like low key some sick basketball courts and a lot of talent. And oddly, Paris is very similar to New York in that it kind of still has that like there's a lot of banter and like there's a lot of tough love, but it's all coming from a really like real genuine place. So there's like a lot of trash talk. I learned some like trash talk in French and like I the street ball community there is very tight and it's and basketball generally is growing a lot in France. So um it was honestly so fun. I pushed my flight back. Was having so much fun. So yeah, the people there are everything.
Exactly. It's also nice to learn how people talk trash in sports when speaking a foreign language and learn other street ball leagues. That the street ball is not just descended in New York City; it's descended around the world.
It's a universal language for sure.
Exactly. And everybody that learn how to play basketball is it's in foreign countries. Sometimes it gets carried onto the college basketball landscape, especially for the women as we transition into talking women's basketball. Now, I don't know if you've seen my social medias, but you saw I was at the Big East Media Day where I interviewed the players for the Big East and Big East men's and women's teams, asking them what makes them interesting to watch, what makes the teams interesting to watch, as far as the upcoming game at the Garden between St. John's and Villanova. So, yeah, with that, why don't you tell me like four teams to watch this season coming up in women's college basketball as it starts this week?
Yes, I'm so excited. I think you know the big one that's obvious is the former champs LSU. Um, they've already they're already so good and they're getting back so much talent and they're adding Haley Van Lith and they have a new locker room. I don't know if you saw their new
Yeah, I
locker
saw the
room.
footage of that new locker room. Yeah, those
I'm
players.
like, they're not leaving, they're
And I
thriving.
met,
So
and I met Katari Poole, who played ball at South Shore. She has a ring with them, even though she did as a bench warmer. But it's good that she has a college basketball ring or a national
yeah,
champion ring. To
no,
be
I think they're for sure a team to keep you know, obviously they're gonna be in the top and the fact that they added Haley is like wild. It's like she's one of my favorite players. So I'm really excited to see how she does in that environment. And there's a lot of like big personalities there. So I think that's going to be a fun team to watch. Um, I think I want to see. I feel like they haven't had as easy of a time the past couple of years because of injuries and other things. But I'm excited to see UConn. I think Fudd is going to have a good year. Obviously, everyone loves Paige Beckers. Um, Caroline Ducharme. Like there's so many really talented players. And I think Edwards too, Leah Edwards. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of talent there. And I want to see them kind of become the UConn that they have been in the past. But I at the same time I also like how other teams are like taking over and UConn isn't just like super teaming their way through everybody. I think the one that a lot of people are going to be excited about is Iowa. Caitlin Clark obviously like took over March Madness last year, and I'm excited to see what else she does. Honestly, like I think she's kind of created this spark, and a lot of people are going to be watching, and a lot of people watched last year because of her and her range and just kind of like how she holds herself. And then shoot, I think UCLA, I think oh my God, there's honestly so many. South Carolina. It's gonna kind of be a new era with them, honestly. But because they've, lost some people, but there's a lot, and I'm very excited. I could not be more excited for this year. I think it's gonna be really big for like the growth of college basketball in general.
Yeah, and I've had many conversations with people as far as like the Big East being more than just a conference. It's where UConn dominates the landscape. I got to talk to players to get their perspective about it and interview, and as well as the media that was actually covering it. Isis Young, she and I had a conversation saying that there's more to the Big East than just UConn. And we talked about how they're going to be honoring Tasha Butts, may God rest her soul, and all the other teams that are going to be interested to watch. Will we see Georgetown have a much better year and finally return to March Madness? Well, how will Villanova respond with Maggie Segrist not there anymore?
I know that's going to be so big. I know Maddie was huge. I think Lucy's going to play really well though. She had 23 points her first game, and she's been training a lot. So I still think their team's going to be strong.
Not to mention, and you can't forget about this lady named Christina Nadalsi from Villanova. I hope I pronounced it right. But she has a pretty good post moves and mid-range shot. I'll give her that. Yes. But can she bring that when you come to the Garden? She even said so. Wait, we're playing at the Garden? Like, she knew how excited it is to hear the names Villanova at the Garden is. She knew what's coming to her.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think a lot of those girls are like recognizing how big it's getting, and that they're like a big part of it too. So that a lot of them are having to, get the confidence and step it up and see what they can do. So
yeah.
And then I don't know how many questions are left, but maybe just one more if that's okay. Because I've actually one more question to wrap up the conversation. Like, what can we what content creation ideas are we going to be expecting from you as we get to the rest of this calendar year in the future? Oh my gosh, I'm cooking up so much. I'm kind of my main thing now is going all in on my content. So my goal is to keep creating top work and putting out things I'm proud of, but also being more consistent and putting out more than I have before. So there's going to be a lot of traveling things, really be a lot of collaborations with different people. We're going to go outside of basketball to other sports. I have I'm trying to diversify more, and I've already interviewed a bunch of athletes in everything: flag football, which just became an Olympic sport, skateboarding, rugby, soccer, or football, depending on where in the world you are. And yeah, I'm going to continue to just push the needle on empowering women through sports, and then just being very, very creative and trying to think of things that people haven't done or shot in a certain way. So a lot of creativity and a lot of good energy. That's for sure going to happen.
And I promise you, after this, you're going to see that come to fruition. And don't forget to check out any other events that you see coming up. As I promise you, there will be some more college basketball content, and the WNBA coverage will never stop.
Never. Amen.
And that was this episode of Nothing But That Sports Talk. Thank you so much for stopping by, Hannah O'Flynn. I love having these different conversations with you, and hopefully me and you can collaborate on something together eventually.
I love it. Awesome.
And for Hannah Flynn, Rafiqla was on. We'll see you next time.
Peace.